This session will be chaired by Dr. M. Kabir. I welcome you, sir, onto the dais. And this technical session is the researcher session, so I welcome all the researchers also. To formally welcome the dignitaries and the participants, I invite Anjana.
Respected dignitaries on and off the dais, distinguished delegates, and my dear friends, a warm good evening to one and all. I wish to take this opportunity to welcome all to the fourth technical session of the International Conference by Inter-University Center for Alternative Economics. And this session deals with the divergent issues of alternative development paradigms, and it aims at establishing a culture of research. We are honored to have Dr. M. Kabir, former head, Department of Economics, Govt Women's College, and former fellow from the Center for Development Studies to chair the session. I welcome you, sir, to this session. It's a great pleasure to extend hearty welcome to the young intellectuals who represent the future. And I welcome Ms. Gopika Gigi, Ms. Chindu P.S., Mr. Samshir R.H., Ms. Anila R. and Mr. Karthik Agash, Mr. Adarsh, Ms. Susan Mariama Cherian, and Dr. Shyamlal G.S., Mr. Subair K., Mr. Jeffrey Mushaija, Mrs. Sanas S., and Mr. Behram Mahmoudi to present their papers. And I welcome all to this session. With this, I conclude my words. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjana. I request Dr. M. Kabir to start the proceedings. Sir, first we'll have Adarsh PG.
Respected Kabir sir, who is chairing the session, and most respected Manju teacher, HOD of economics, and the person who molded me and teaching me 7 years, and most respected Salim sir, who is the organizer of this program. And before starting my presentation, I am actually saying some things. This is because my area is actually very much different. I am not saying that it is a new area. This is because I am actually very much interested in philosophical side of economics, simply philosophical side. And in the previous day, our woman sir has analyzed some things. He stated that nowadays economics is very much deviating from its core. That is, economics is more mathematical, it is more applied. That is why I am taking this topic. I am not saying that mathematical economics is not good to economics. It is very much relevant, it is good. But as far as this fact is concerned, we can see that at the same time, we have to give stress on the core, that is the philosophical side of economics. For example, if we take the case of the Department of London School of Economics, there are various 3 departments mainly. First is actual economics department, that is the applied economics. Second is economic history. There is a vibrant economic history department in the London School of Economics. And next is there is a department of logic, philosophy, and scientific method. So if you are interested simply in pure economics or simply applied economics, you can simply do research in applied economics. At the same time, if you are simply interested in historical side of economics, you can simply do research in historical economics. At the same time, you are simply interested in philosophy economics, you can simply do much research in philosophy economics. But I don't know, in Indian universities, especially universities in Kerala, has any facility for this. We are simply oriented in applied economics. We are simply mathematical. We are simply applied, and the core is simply relegated to the very back. That is very much the problem of Indian economics. And here I am taking a different topic. That is Islamic economics. That is inclusive epistemology of Islamic economics, a study of Sufism and economics. And when I am actually preparing this topic, some of my colleagues asked me a doubt. Sir, what is simply the relationship between Sufism and economics? Sufism is simply a science or a method which is simply mystical or which is simply spiritual. And economics is simply a method or a science which is simply material. So, sir, they asked me, sir, how can you relate these mystical Sufism and material economics? What is simply the relationship between mystical Sufism and material economics? So, I told them that there is a relation. That is, economics is material, but economics is simply based on the fact that it is simply based on economization of resources, which are simply scarce. Simply, economics aims at economization of resources, which are scarce. At the same time, Sufism is simply related to this economization or simply optimization of a most important resource, that is human resource. If Sufism can optimize a human resource and it is another area of resource, another type of resource, we can simply say that it can be simply combined or it can be simply related. That is simply the relevance of economics. Economization, as far as economization factor is concerned, we can see that there is simply a relationship between Sufism and economics. And the first picture, this picture simply shows a whirling dance of Sufis. And you can see that, or you can understand that dance is very much relevant to Sufism. That is simply the difference between Islam and Sufism. And dance is very much important. Islam does not permit much relevance to dance. But Sufism is dance is very much relevant to Sufism. And here it is said that when this dance, whirling dance, take place, they simply say that in that process they can simply attain to the meditation. This is simply a type of meditation, and because from this dance, firstly the outer and inner simply points to the one side, and they can simply attain meditation. That is simply the relevance of the picture that is given here. And without much time, I know that there are only 5 minutes, and I cannot say I am actually very much unable to present here these ideas within 5 minutes, I know, but within some because of the constraint of this time, I am limiting my presentation. These are some definitions of economics. Dr. Louis J. Cantori, Middle Eastern scholar, author and former professor of political science, who simply defines Islamic economics. You can see that. Then another person, Hassun Saman, also defines it. Next, importance of Islamic economics. You can see the slides. The integrated role of market, family, society, etc. High role of moral values, concepts emphasizing the innate goodness, etc., etc. Then motivating mechanism of sacrifice. Rationality in Islamic economics does not get confined to serving of one's self-interest. Human brotherhood, one of the central objectives of Islam get much importance in Islamic economics. Then why Sufism in economics? Very much important. Islamic economics stresses on commercial jurisprudence, which is rigid in nature. Sufism is a name for inner esoteric dimension of Islam. Then Sufism, according to scholars, is a derivative of the word Suf.
Yes, you are doing. It is simply a matter of time.
Okay. I can give the concluding remarks. That is already present in my abstract. Please read this. That is, I am very much enabled. That is, the present paper can be concluded based on the argument that even though principles of Islamic economics are very helpful to maintain a fair commercial jurisprudence, it is not complete without the ideas and flexibility of Sufism. And we can see that the ideas of Sufism can create a new revolution in Islamic economics, and at the end, Islamic economics can achieve its peak. And thus, we can see that the mystical Sufism has much more relevance in material science of economics. Sir, only one quotation, and after that I can conclude. This is very important. It is a famous quotation by the famous Sufi poet Rumi. That is, there are many winds full of anger, lust and greed. They move the rubbish around, but a solid mountain of our true nature stays. where it is always been. So I am saying that this without the rubbish around, our solid mountain should be there, and it should be states where it is always been. Thank you very much.
So this is simply
Next we have Chintu PS on dice.
Honorable Chairman of the session, other dignitaries of the dais, respected faculty members and dear friends. Very good afternoon to one and all. Before going to my paper, I would like to thank my supervising teacher Salim sir and the organizers for giving me an opportunity to present this paper. The topic of my paper is structural transformation and development in Kerala. It is the study of Colin Clark and Fisher, who made a distinction between the different sectors as a base for the theory of development. And I consider some of these studies by Danny Roderick, Peter Timbers and some others, which is more relevant in the context of my paper. It is the study of Danny Roderick, which observes that the structure of economic activity is substantially different in some developing countries and in case of the developed countries. And we need to study the structure of every economy in studying the development pattern or structural transformation. And developing countries cannot be considered as a scaled down versions of advanced countries. So they are qualitatively and quantitatively different. This is very relevant in case of Kerala. Again, Peter Timmer observes that as Prabhat Patnaik sir yesterday in his lecture said about that transitional pain, that in the initial stages of the structural transformation there will be an increasing inequality, rural and urban inequality will be higher. And the thesis of Alexander Martin Lavapa says that two key transformations needs to be attained in order to catch up with the advanced world. First is structural change, that is the absorption of the increased labor force in the modern sectors of the economy, and second transformation is the technological catch-up. The failure to achieve either of this transformation will left the economy in a less developed, low-income category or lower middle-income category of development. So the transformation of the economy necessitates the development of the commodity-producing sectors or primary or secondary sectors. As against the conventional theories of development, Kerala have an imbalance in the development trajectory, and this occurred, dominance of the service sector occurred even before the advancement in the growth in the productive sectors of the economy and domestic income. And the dominant role of the tertiary sector in terms of employment and income is achieved by the state not even before the productive sectors had expanded and with higher levels of state income. This is shown in the distribution of net domestic contribution of different sectors in the net domestic product of Kerala. I'm not going into the reasons in which why the primary and secondary sectors lagged behind these sectors due to time constraint. So the structural imbalance in the state. Imbalance is the result of remittance-induced service sector growth, and one of the characteristics of this imbalanced growth or imbalance in the structural transformation of Kerala is the intra-sectoral transformation, which was explained by Shaidan sir in his presentation, and then intra-sectoral linkages were higher than the inter-sectoral linkages. That itself shows that Kerala had or the service sector growth in Kerala is independent of the commodity producing sectors. Another major feature, even in the late 2000s, we could analyze that the position of the IT sector in the state is promising, and in the need for a multi-pronged approach of rural development via agricultural development and industrial growth and generation of employment opportunities in the service sector was witnessed even in the 70s in the state. But the policies of the government cannot reach up to the expectations of the measures. So this is the result. This leads to a result that Kerala ranks highest in income inequality in the rural areas. As compared to the industrially advanced states of or green revolution states or Kerala having higher income inequality. And again in 2010, Kerala's per capita GSTP in the 2005 purchasing power parity dollar shows that it is just about $4,763. So according to World Bank classification, we are in the lower middle income category of development. Accelerated growth is sustainable only if it is driven by the sectors having greater opportunities for technological progress and producing products with higher income elasticity. And for long-run sustainability of the model, there is a need to promote technology and knowledge-intensive manufacturing sectors and service sectors within the state. For that, we need a big push in investment and a higher levels of trickle-down effect also be there with the commodity producing sectors and all. And the theme of the seminar that can the past and present strategies predict the future. That there may be a lot of problems, economic problems in case of Kerala, but limited to my topic of presentation, that is structural transformation and economic development, I could say that if we are able to address the problems as mentioned in the productive sectors of the economy, we can have a balanced transformation and to achieve higher levels of development with higher levels of human development and economic growth. Thank you.
Next, we have Shamsir Arich from Department of Sociology, University of Kerala, and his topic is Post-Displacement Community Life, a Human Ecological Perspective.
Respected Sir, Dr. Kabir Sir, and distinguished faculty members of the dais, my friends, the topic I am here to present is post-displacement life. Community life. I forgot to add something on it. Community life, a human ecological perspective. Actually, this is a joint paper written by Dr. Ushra Begum and me. So, coming to the paper, I wish to say something about the development question. How it should be. Like, I'm inculcating the much forgotten Herbert Marcuse's perspective into the scenario of development-induced displacement. First, I would develop some critique of two prominent theories in development-induced displacement. First, like an introduction, India came to the grips of technological progress ever since colonization. However, the liberalization policies in the post-90s was the point of departure that opened up the country to the possibility of large-scale assimilation of the advanced industrial society's characteristics. The state-sponsored programs of technological development, mainly in the forms of transport and communication, penetrated deep not only into the urban centers of the country, but also into the nooks and corners of the rural India too. It was in consonance with the technological advancement that the idea of development took root in the country. Then the two theories. That was actually the contribution of World Bank missions of fact-finding missions. It is a lot of studies were conducted by World Bank when they they implemented development programs in third world countries through their funds. So these guidelines have been refined over the years. They have developed so many guidelines, and it has been refined for years. In fact, the World Bank became a trendsetter in the DIDR discourses, and the two most discussed theories in DIDR, I think it cannot be shown. It's a lot of content there. The two most discussed theories are impoverishment risk and reconstruction model, and the Scudder's human ecological perspective. In Scudder's human ecological perspectives says that there are four stages of displacement have four stages. First, it's planning, initial infrastructure development, and settler recruitment, transition. Then second stage is transition, and third stage is economic and social development, and fourth stage is handing over and incorporation. Actually, the approach was developed for voluntary resettlement of the displaced people. But when it comes to development-induced displacement, it's not voluntary displacement; it's actually involuntary displacement. So the transition stage, most of the population, the World Bank studies says that most of the population could not surpass the transition stage. So the dilemma of transition stage was prominent in the Scudder's human ecological approach, but he couldn't develop the question. The meta question implicit in the human ecological approach from his own analysis. Actually, he has a very powerful negating question that would have argued against the whole system of capitalist development. So the question is, The meta question is, can a resettlement strategy, which has proven to be a failure in effectively responding to the pupils' psychosocial reactions and the resulting stagnation in their innovating capacity during the transition stage, bring about qualitative changes in the post-displacement life of an affected community? I mean, actually, resettlement claim that they can, resettlement strategies claim that they can bring development to the life of the displaced after once the displacement happen, a kind of so I mean every social relations and are broken up, a kind of paradigm shift can happen, and this can be utilized for making them more developed. So now the impoverishment risk and reconstruction model. Impoverishment risk and reconstruction model came into the DIDR discourses as a critic of this Tada's human ecological approach. The model primarily provides 8 universals, namely landlessness, joblessness, homelessness, marginalization, food insecurity, loss of common property resources, increased morbidity and mortality, and social disarticulation, under which all the dynamics of possible impoverishments could be included. Actually, what the IRR did was to obliterate the pivotal question raised by the human ecological model, that is the negating question. How can a resettlement that never addressed the psychosocial problems of the displaced, how can it give development to the people? So this was the major achievement of impoverishment risk and reconstruction model. I say achievement in a quoted sense, like it's an ironical sense. Yes. The contention of the DIDR discourses, I mean, when the IRR, the theoretical approach, the IRR theoretical approach emerged, DIDR means development-induced displacement and resettlement. So the contention of the DIDR discourses became much revealed after the uncritical acceptance of IRR model. The DIDR discourses unreservedly accepted the IRR framework because it did not contain any radical content which, if pursued, will challenge the very way in which development is conceived and executed in a displacement scenario. The DIDR discourses, by uncritically accepting this theoretical framework, signifies the contention of these discourses that pursuing such meta questions that points out the destructive nature of the kind of development that these discourses support is something that doesn't have any practical value. So now the role of social scientists. There are some critical questions that need to be posed at this juncture. What should be the role of social scientists regarding the DIDR? Sonia himself acknowledges the fact that involuntary population displacement and resettlement are frequent enough, big enough, and complex and consequential enough to merit the full mobilization of the social science conceptual and operational tools available to address it. So, should social scientists formulate or assist in formulating informed policies that would help the resettlement agencies to effectively repress the psychosocial needs of the resettlers? Actually, what is given in the name of resettlement and development is actually the repression of the very needs and the real needs of the displaced people. So should the social scientists help the resettlers, I mean the policy makers, to make the suppression or make the repression more effective? So the resettlement strategy through the lens of Marcusean technological rationality. I mean, Urban Marcuse is known as the messiah of New Left movement, which was once prominent. Then I have much time to get into the ideas of, I mean, what he is and all. So this society has surpassed its, I mean, his very radical idea was technological rationality. This society has surpassed its ideology by translating it into the reality of its political institutions, suburban homes, and okay, sir. But this is the core of my thing, sir. So just I will describe this thing and I will go to the conclusion, sir. So actually, what this theoretical approach did was conceiving displaced as a material obstacle in the way to development. Neither the utilization of administrative rather than physical controls, that is, this is a quote from Urban Marcuse. Actually, Urban Marcuse quoted from someone else too, Francois Perroux. So neither the utilization of administrative rather than physical controls, nor the change in the character of heavy work, nor the assimilation of occupational classes, nor the equalization of the sphere of consumption, or compensate for the fact that the decision over life and death, over personal and national security, are made at places over which the individuals have no control. The slaves of developed industrial civilization are sublimated slaves, but they are slaves, for slavery is determined neither by obedience nor by hardness of labor, but by the status of being a mere instrument, and the reduction of man to the state of a thing. The idea discourses reduce the man as a state of a thing. In the qualitative change, he implies that actually it's a critique of Marx. Marx said that the revolution can bring in a qualitative change to the whole world. So that was the idea of, when technological advancement happens, it will naturally bring the qualitative change in the people's living. But what happened is the technology would engulf our consciousness, our unconscious too, and we have been a part of the technological rationality, which implied false needs. Which indoctrinated the false needs of the capitalism in us, and we began the consumers of these false needs. That's what I say. The qualitative change should happen.
Anila R and Karthik Akash's presentation from Department of Future Studies, and the topic is Diverse World and Development Policy, Review of Diversity Indices in a Contextualized Spectrum.
Not more than that.
The presentation that I'm trying to make deals with something called the Diversity Index. And this index was proposed in the Abhinav Kondo Committee report, which came in 2008. But unfortunately, this particular index never received the appreciation it should have. Because this one index is a useful aid in analyzing the extent of exclusion. Because we were keeping on talking about the inequalities, the exclusionary tendencies, the inclusionary tendencies that is happening in this developed world, which sidelined certain communities from taking the bigger part of the cake that is produced. So in order to know whether there is an exclusion, we need to have some objective method by which we could delineate the groups that were excluded in this development process and those groups that were included in this process. How can we do that? It is simple logic that we can use the diversity index, which take two parameters. The first one is the eligible population to occupy a particular social space, whether that be educational institution, whether that be an institution that offers employment to the people, whether that be an institution which represents the political participation, the political empowerment, mechanism in the society. So for any space, we can use these two parameters to evaluate where there is an exclusion or not. So diversity index had taken its notion from the ecological model of building the species richness. So that we always talk that we have to bring in the interdisciplinarity to this system. We always try to say that we have to get devoid of the mechanical mathematics that never appreciate the condition of a living system. So this particular index is a special case where it actually awards certain appreciation for the living systems of the society. So this index is, as I already told, is basically based on three parameters. The three parameters are actual percentage of the population who are eligible, who are in a particular space, and the number of eligible population who belong to that particular category, and also the proportion of the population, that particular community population, in the total population. So this particular diversity gap or the diversity index could be extended to social categories, whether that be religion, whether that be caste, whether that be gender. For the Government of India, this committee report had pertained only 3 social categories for the analysis using this diversity index. Now, coming towards the importance of this particular diversity index is that it simply tells you how diverse is your community. Because if you know that, if you conduct a temporal analysis of the diversity of a community at 2 points of time, then you will be able to tell whether an eligible person from a particular community was able to be at that position, which simply means that you will be able to understand the objective reality of the difference between the entitlement and the realization. So this index is a facilitating index which enables you to understand where the differences are coming in. Now, coming towards this importance, due to lack of time, I'm just focusing on the utility part of this particular index. It helps you to identify the unequal assignment of weighted preference by a political system. It also helps you to identify whether our community or our society is going back to the initial conditions. It also helps you to identify the spaces that needs a policy boost and how you can do this policy boost. If the diversity index is showing a negative aspect towards a particular community in a particular space or an institution, then you could actually incentivize that institution to take up improvement of diversity by awarding certain incentives. And also you can penalize those institutions that is detrimental to the propagation of the diversity. Now, it also enables one to have a subgroup level of identification, because whenever we try to conduct a comparative analysis of two groups, we are lost in the fact that there are certain categories within a particular community which is kept away from the realities of this inclusive group. So this index is one more because of the axiomatic system it is having. This enables both the vertical level of aggregation as well as the horizontal level of aggregation. Vertical level of aggregation means within one particular category how the inequality works or how it is detrimental to the diversity within a particular community. And also the horizontal means the problem with the public policy formulation in India, which some of the people in the development literature feels, is that they undermine the role of multidimensionality of the person on which all the development projects are being imposed. So there are basically four axioms: the axioms of positive progressivity, axiom of irrelevant alternatives, axiom of independence from irrelevant alternatives, which combined into this notion where you could use the best part of this index. We are keeping on telling that the data sets are not available, but this index can use the available data sets. And they have proposed one framework for the better implementation of the public policies at the micro and macro level by a very systematic, the framework is absolutely very systematic, but unfortunately this index is not given the appreciation that it should have. That's all.
Next, we have Susan Mariamma Charian and Dr. Shamlal GS, and their topic of presentation is Energy Solutions for Mitigating Climate Change, a case study of Kerala.
First privilege this session under dignitaries and my friends. Before starting my presentation, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Kabir sir and the organizing committee. This paper has been prepared by Dr. Shamlal sir and me with the aim, keeping in mind that now we all know that our climate has changed tremendously over the last few years, basically due to pollution, ozone layer depletion, and such things that plastic burning and all such things. And global warming is also a main cause for climate change. Keeping this in mind, we thought that something has to be done to pull it back. And this paper has been prepared with this aim. Now, this is a question I would like to ask every one of you about climate change. Are we least bothered? In fact, I would like to say that we are least bothered from the things that we are doing. We can say that we are least bothered, and but some changes has happened. We are passing through a period which is the hottest temperature ever, and our period is being compared with the two periods that has experienced the hottest temperature ever on Earth. The one is the age of dinosaurs called Jurassic period, which existed 66 million years ago, and that came to an end with the impact of an asteroid that has fallen into the atmosphere killing the entire living things on the earth. And another period is Paleozoic thermal maximum, which existed 56 million years ago, which is called the period of natural global warming. And during this period, the atmospheric concentration of CO2 was already higher than the present period. And the reason for mentioning these two periods is that our period is being compared with this, and the PE team is taken as a case study for the present rate global warming. Although the maximum rate of CO2 emission during this period was much lower, we are taking that period as a comparison. And during that period, the CO2 emission was just 1.1 GT per year, and now it is 10 times more than that. Then we have set some aims in order to reduce the CO2 emission and to reduce the use of petroleum products. If we are able to achieve these aims, we will be successful. We can reduce the impacts of climate warming by 300 years. Okay, but even if you are able to achieve these aims, the impacts that are being caused by the climate change will last for another 10,000 more years. The impacts, I'm not going into that, we all know. And so climate change is not a myth anymore, it's a reality, and we should open up our eyes towards it. And who are the victims? It's our own future generation who are getting victimized by the things that we are doing now. And what does this sustainability stand for? Meeting our needs without compromising the needs of the future generation. That's the question. And the relation between climate change and energy, I'm not going to that. Coming down to the Kerala situation. In Kerala, a major share of energy comes from hydro source. So you may think that there is no CO2 emission, but that's not the thing. Around 25, we are able to meet only 25% of the demand from Kerala, and the 75%, the remaining 75% is met from external sources that comes from fossil fuels. So we're changing from hydro to non-hydro. This is the relevance of the study. A hydro-based economy is now turning to a non-hydro-based economy, and in the advent of climate change, we should think why we are changing. This is in fact a forced change caused by climate change impacts, because we are not able to meet the demands from our hydro energy generation, and the energy demand has also been increasing. So we are forced to go for other. So why can't we choose alternative clean sources? And the central theme of study is, Kerala is a state which is facing serious energy shortages due to climate change impacts that rise up our water bodies. And another feature of Kerala energy consumption is that there is high peak hour consumption. And if we can shift this peak hour consumption to other time zones and meet this consumption with alternative forms of energy, and that will be a revolutionary change. And the objectives was to analyze the cost effectiveness of such clean sources. For this purpose, we have conducted an energy audit, which helped us to stabilize the energy consumption pattern by shifting the peak hour consumption to other periods and meeting this with alternative sources. These are the energy audit being done. The normal period consumption has been divided into 3 periods in order to show that it is possible to meet a considerable part of consumption with alternative forms of energy. And it was also found cost effective because there will be a 50% reduction in the electricity bills as a result of as we convert towards solar energy hybrid homes. The hybrid homes that are being presented in our study are found to be the most viable and sustainable source with the advent of climate change instead of other options. And the model that is being presented in our study can be defined as a power home that has a net zero energy building impact, which neutralizes the annual energy balance and makes every household self-sufficient. Not only in the sense we are able to meet our needs, we will be also able to pass a part of our extra units or surplus units to the system, like ASEB. And another feature of this home is that it is climate neutral. It does not have any impacts on the climate with like CO2 emissions or it neutralizes the adverse impacts. And this is the conclusion. We were able to manage the peak hour consumption by adopting such a hybrid home that was cost effective and that was found cost effective and sustainable. And before concluding, I would like to show you some pictures, and I would like to ask you a question if you are able to find something common in any of these pictures. If you can say something common. Yeah, plastic. And that's a common factor in all of these pictures. And where does it go? This is our attitude. This picture shows our attitude. So it's time that we must change our attitudes. And I would like to conclude by saying, let's prepare ourselves to change our lifestyles and be part in saving our planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Next is the presentation by Zubair K. The topic is Challenges to Kerala's Sustainable Development, question of solid waste management in Vilappanchala.
Good evening, everybody. Title of my paper is Challenges to Kerala's Sustainable Development, question of solid waste management in Vilappanchala. This paper tries to expose the inherent paradox and internal ambivalence in the centralized waste management system with the help of Vilappanchala waste issue in the context of Kerala Model Development, or KMD. This paper contains two parts. First part is Kerala Model Development, a shadowy green. Kerala's per capita income is very low comparing to many of developed countries, but the state's achievements in improving material conditions of living and indicators of social development are comparable with these countries. RI 2000. Kerala has achieved health and demographic transition and able to reduce regional and gender gaps in education, literacy and enrollment at all levels of education. However, there is a darker side to this glossy picture of KMD. A number of environmental and health issues as well as the low socio-economic status of Dalits and tribes indicate this. The social insecurity faced by women and the growing rate of sexual harassment are eclipsing the euphemism on the unique development achievements of the Kerala. There are several development and environmental controversies further revealing the internal crisis of the model. The endosulfan controversy and Pachpana anti-Coca-Cola struggles are examples. The state has failed to make permanent solution for waste handling. A large number of waste-related controversies in Kerala are a paradox to KMD. In the last decade, a rapid increase in the number of towns, which is 361. According to census 2011, 47% population of Kerala is urbanized. Institutions like hospitals, schools and colleges, markets, food stalls, slaughterhouses and marriage halls generate a huge amount of solid waste in urban places. Development is a visible component of urbanization, and this component of urbanization itself in trouble due to the unscientific and uncontrolled urbanization process, which is a kind of boomerang effect. See Ulrich Beck. To prevent the vegetables from damage at the time of transport, many layers of plastic packaging are used. Multinational companies, supermarkets produce a huge amount of waste. A large number of hotels, restaurants and other food centers are launched in different parts of the state, and people are somewhat dependent on these places for their food, which increase the wastage of food. Earlier people used to preserve leftover food, or wasted food was given to domestic animals. The consumeristic culture made it inevitable to be dependent on the bottled water and soft drinks as fashionable or an indication of social status. This trend has become a reason for increasing the amount of plastic bottles in waste. We have gone away from the habit of reusing materials, which leads to inefficient use of materials and turned to accumulation of waste. Introduction of plastic is another reason. The common notion is that Kerala is free from factories. The number of registered factories is 20,473 in 2012, Economic Review 2030. and generated about 71,000 metric ton of hazardous waste per year, CPCB 2012. Pilgrim places, temples, mosques and churches are contributing their waste share. All kinds of conferences like political parties, religious conference and even academic conferences like this, generating a huge amount of waste. Nearly 30,000 kilograms of waste, biomedical waste is generated every day in Kerala, CPCB 2010. As part of the recycling and material recovery process of e-waste, I'm just reading the.
Not to read out.
And I actually summarized this thing. You have to read this. E-waste, lead, mercury, cyanide, and dioxin will be released. This is only 3 pages only. These have power to change the decorum of ecosystem. This waste is neither collected scientifically for recycling or reuse. The darker side of candy is more visible in the case of waste issues. Uncontrolled production of waste and lack of eco-friendly disposal facilities are the failure of the state. The poor people must pay their livelihood and dreams for the betterment of the rest. The problem of waste is a recent addition to this sub-politics in Kerala, which shows the existing system are highly inefficient. Second part of this paper is emergence of publics in the context of Vilapilshala waste controversy. The state always trying to benefit by keeping in touch with technology, which gives better life situation to a public, but it challenges others' social identity, justice, right and livelihood. Varghese proposes 3 distinct categories of publics, which are scientific citizen public, quasi-publics and non-public. In the case of Vilapilshala, the waste was transferred from the city of Trivandrum to Vilapilshala. The management of waste from the city turned to be political issue for both Vilapil Gram Panchayat and Trivandrum Corporation, which led to the formation of publics around the waste controversy, deliberating its diverse aspects. Corporation has started a waste treatment plant with the help of state and central government. Waste-related issues are very much complicated, which threatening the entire life situation of the people along with the environment. See, this problem is that I have to read this, otherwise I cannot conclude. This paper has tried to understand the conclusion. This is conclusion. This paper has to try to understand how the waste challenges the sustainable development of Kerala in the context of developing waste controversy. It is very important to understand that waste is no more considered as useful knowledge if it is not getting acceptance from the lower strata of the society. It is responsibility of the state and protect everybody's livelihood and the fundamental rights. However, it is everybody's duties to control the production of waste and the disposal of generated waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Zubair. Next, we have a presentation by Geoffrey Musheja.
Thank you very much. My presentation is just based on primary data, secondary data, and work-related experience. So I not go much into the theme of the seminar. I thought about talking about small landholder farmers. Why did I thought about landholder farmers as an avenue that can provide inclusive growth, especially in developing economies, which are basically agrarian economies. So, my challenge to the audience is to go back to the basics. When you look at the development discourses or development initiative, they are linked from the basics. So one of the messages is, can we humbly and honestly go back to the basics and go back to the smallholder farmers who is presenting an economic unit that can be viably enhanced. Studies have proved that small land farms, if given the same resources and given the same support like big farms, they can do better. I will not talk much about Rwanda profile. It's one of the countries in Africa, but almost 80% they are predominantly in agriculture sector. And 81% women make up our agriculture section. Why am I singling out women? One of the, apart from going back to the basics and attend to the smallholder farm, I see another government question about engaging women. Earlier, Madam Somananthan talked about women justice. If we have an economy where 80% are in agriculture sector, for the whole population, wonder we have 52% women, like Kerala. So if we leave out that population, that group of people, out of the agenda, out of the, these days when you don't sit on the high table like this, you become the menu. So if we have some representation of a big number of people left out, then it becomes a very big question. So engaging women is one of the issues that we need to think about. In my country, I think we have the highest representation of women in the world. We have 64%. But 64% in the legislatures, 40% in the executive, 40% in the judiciary, and 38% in the local council department. So if they are being there, help our country to perform in many sectoral policies. So one of the development questions that I would suggest to India, for example, don't leave out the majority section. Have them on the high table, they progress the policy sector. So I tend to think that the poor performing social area in India, when you read about it, if women are on board, they can better. They can put their attention to detail. Another thing that is essential for smallholder farmers, why they are essential for inclusive economic growth, and they are the majority in the developing countries. They are the source of employment. They are the source of food. They are the source of, and the advantage is we have now a growing middle class, and we have a growing population. So this, the growing middle class and the growing population can potentially provide the market from what they produce. If we have the attention on the smallholder farmers, we make them economically viable, we can have inclusive growth and the fight will work. My conclusion is the growing population and the middle class creates potential for smallholder farmers. There's a concern about the youth not being interested in joining the agriculture sector. Even me, I wouldn't get interested. Because the smallholder farmer is caught up in the poverty trap, trying to subsist and survive. So how do you engage in an area that is very fragile? So can you make these people attractive to encourage the younger generation to enter into the service sector? Finally, it's high time we connected the bureaucrats and the academia. The link between our academic institutions, the link between our research institutions and the bureaucratic society with the basic issues, so that they are not disconnected. Because they are the people on the high table making the policy. So how do you make a policy when you don't have a hands-on issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jockey. Next, we have the last presentation of the day, Ms. Sana Zes and Mr. Behram Mahmoodi. Their topic of presentation is the economic impact of female immigration, the case of female nurses from Kerala.
Hello everyone. Good evening. Let me thank you all for coming here and giving me your valuable time. This paper is prepared by me and Mr. Behram Mahmoodi Masrashar. My topic is about economic impact of female immigration, the case of female nurses from Kerala. The impact of immigration on individuals, households, and regions add up to a serious impact on national economy and society. The number of international migrants each year continue to rise. Female migrants are becoming agents of economic variation as they enter the international labor market and global webs. Objectives of the study: to present the economic impact of immigration on female nurses from Kerala, and also to look at massive migration trend of nurses from Kerala to Arab state of Persian Gulf from the historical perspective. Research methodology and database. This paper is based on qualitative study of 5 female nurses from Kerala. Primary data was collected through unstructured interview by female nurses in Kerala who work in Arab state of Persian Gulf, including Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. The economic effect of immigration. The economic effects of migration vary widely. Sending countries may experience both gains and losses in the short term but may stand to gain over the longer term. The economic effects of migration for both sending and receiving countries may also vary depending on who is moving, especially with respect to migrant worker skills level. For sending countries, the short-term economic benefit of immigration is found in remittances. Remittances are funds that immigrants earn abroad and send back to their home countries, mainly in order to support families left behind. In conflict or post-conflict situation, remittances can be crucial to survival, sustenance, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. Moreover, in contributing to foreign exchange earnings, remittances can spur economic growth by improving sending countries. Findings and conclusion. The most important pushes of origin among return migrant female nurses was low salary in the origin, and the most important pulls of destination was high salary and saving more money. The second finding was economic status of nurses was changed positively after migration. Also, economic status of their family in Kerala changed significantly because of remittances they received. The second finding is with comparison of living expenses in Arab countries of Persian Gulf, it was realized that living expenses in Saudi Arabia is lower than the other Arab state of Persian Gulf. So nurses in Saudi Arabia also experience social and religious restrictions, but they can save more money than other Arab countries of Persian Gulf. Support of family, economic reason, at-home migratory networks, and easier employment criteria in Arab state of Persian Gulf compared to developed countries ensured them to migrate to Arab countries of Persian Gulf. Female migrants are becoming agents of economic variation as they enter the international labor market and contribution in a new distribution of global wealth. Professionally active nurses are important players in an increasingly competitive global labor market. Also, nurses migration is mainly limitation. The study was conducted only in Kerala, hence the results derived from the study may or may not be applied to other areas in India. The study is confined only to 6 respondents among the larger sample of population in Kerala, which was considered as enough for the study by the researcher. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now, and Marxism.
My question is to Anila. Anila, do you have any empirical attempts at this diversity index?
To Ms. Anila again. Has there been any case studies done on the basis of these diversity indices in India? If so, how efficient or effective were they?
Actually, my topic is not Islamic economics, but Islamic economics, and simply I have just taken Islamic economics because my topic is actually Sufism and economics. But I can explain sir's question. I don't know his name, sir. Please, can you say his name? The question is that why Islamic economics is a middle ground between capitalism and Marxism. Okay. Actually, Islamic economics is an economics which is simply based on a commercial jurisprudence. And Islamic economics is simply the middle ground between Marxism and capitalism. This is because Islamic economics simply states some of the facts. And it is simply based on Islamic ideology and Islamic law, etc., etc., etc. And when we take the case of capitalism, we can simply see that capitalism goes to the extreme side. That is extreme freedom, extreme liberty, etc., etc., etc. At the same time, Marxism, on the other hand, is taken to another side. That is simply, it is a science of restrictions. Not in the negative sense, in the positive sense. There should be some restrictions are there as far as Marxism is concerned. That is simply the difference between capitalism and Marxism. And actually, capitalism is, it has some defects. And we can see that when there is unlimited freedom and when there is unlimited liberty, there will be some problems. Likewise, Marxism has its own limitations, like ultimate restrictions, and these ultimate restrictions results in some problems. And when we take the case of Islamic economics, we can see that because of the middle ground between capitalism and Marxism, it has some merits. And simply based on these Islamic laws, we can see that it can provide an alternative way to the economics of Marxian economics and capitalist economics. And my topic is different, and my aim is to simply convey the message that there is another alternative way, like this type of economics. This is because it is too philosophical, and you can simply ask that question, that is why it is too much philosophical and it is not giving any solid base or solid proof. Because without this I cannot answer. I am very sorry, sir. For answer this, it is very much needed. These are very much needed for answering this. Because my simple aim here is to understand you. You are very students, and I am a teacher and you are students. So please understand that there are alternative ways. Yes. Okay, thank you, sir.
Regarding the question that ma'am asked, there is a paper by Geetanjali Sen who actually used this particular index to capture the participation in higher education by minority communities. There is a paper by Geetanjali Sen which used the same methodology of the Kundu Committee Diversity Index. Regarding the case study, in the Kundu Committee report itself, they had put this framework forward using a case study on the Muslim community. So, this index has been worked out by people. The title of the paper is Participation in Higher Education, a Comparison of Underrepresentation Across States of India. This is actually a regional study. It's a comparatively regional study. One more second, sir. Today afternoon I made a very grave mistake because I said it is 1,000 liters. It is not 1,000 liters, it is 1,000 million liters. That's a grave mistake. Because of that grave mistake, you might miss the importance of this issue, because the National Green Tribunal had taken this as one of the cases, because we all are aware that the National Green Tribunal is starting their bench in High Court. So this is a very grave issue of how the policy matters, like in print and in actual situation.
That you can incorporate 25. Okay, I want to tell you one thing. You are all students or research scholars, and you have to go here to learn about managing time. That's the most important. And also, the papers presented here are mostly those in the initial stages.
Thank you, sir. To propose the formal vote of thanks, may I invite Lakshmi?
Thus concludes the fourth and the final session of day 2 of the International Conference. What we saw here was a wonderful juxtaposition of intellect and knowledge. Saying this, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. M. Kabir for having justly chaired the session. I also thank all the research scholars for presenting the topics with vigor, commendable drive, and also for thrusting a plethora of information upon a wide-eyed audience in a succinct manner. Last but not least, I would also like to thank our wonderful audience for having been dynamic up till the concluding moments of today's technical sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. After such an exhaustive day of intellectual discourse and debates, at least I think we are on the right path of thinking alternative ways to our developmental issues. We look forward to your participation in tomorrow's 2 technical sessions and the valedictory session. Have a very good evening.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे